I'm going to start with this webinar. So once again, thanks a lot for joining me today. So as mentioned in a first slide, our topic today is going to be data, and we're going to approach it from various sides and to see how banking sector and banking industry can gain some benefits out of the data, as I mentioned, in various forms. This is our agenda, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I'm going to drill down topic by topic, and then actually you'll see it. As I mentioned in the beginning, if you have any questions regarding any of these, feel free to write them down in chat. So to start, digital transformation assessment. So idea of this first chapter is actually to try to answer the question where to start from, right? So in order to answer a question where to start from, I always like to, start in the end, like look where is that we're trying to get, especially from a customer's perspective. Now, and which some of you maybe know as Alipay, or also part of Alibaba's empire, so to call them, So Ant is China's really financial powerhouse. And from a customer perspective, it's actually what we're trying to achieve regarding, we call this company a bank or a fintech or a solution provider or whatever. So Ant is currently most dominant player in digital banking world, serving 1 billion customers, and having 4 different revenue streams. Now, only reason why probably a lot of you didn't heard about it is because 95 or 97% of their customers is still from China. Their first revenue stream is obviously payment, so sending transaction, and it's integrated in WeChat chatting platform and various other solutions. Then the next revenue stream, lending. It started, as a micro lending platform for small and micro companies that Chinese banks were not interested in, and now has grown into 15% of credit market share, which goes through the end. Now, what's more interesting here is that actually this risk assessment part, it's fully digital. It includes up to 3,000 variables on each and every loan they're lending, and it's run below 3 minutes in average, right? And what that thing allowed them is to actually change their approach to banking business from, let's say, classical banking approach where you lend the money, right, and then charge on interest, to a model, let's call it referral fee, right? So they were doing the credit risk assessment and sending the data to a bank. And then I, as a customer, actually don't care as long as I'm getting the best product for me. And they also switched their revenue stream from pure interest and doing really banking business into referral fee. Next step, then again, what started as a micro saving function for Alibaba clients, and allowed me, to save, round up my spendings and save some money. Actually now grown to third biggest money fund in 2017 in the world, offering a little over than 6,000 products. And it was also simultaneously huge boost to China's capital market and a huge education on investment to retail clients. And in the end, of course, fourth stream is, and we're going to talk a lot about this today, they're actually being used as a sales channel for insurance selling, doing same thing. So taking only, let's say, sales fee and matchmaking the customers with insurance providers. Now, on the right-hand side, you can see how actually health the structure of these revenue streams in their world are. And in I think 2 or 3 days, they're delivering on IPO, sadly only in China because of all the US restrictions. And it is supposed to be a largest IPO in the history of a business. After that, Ant is probably going to become 4th biggest financial company by market value in the world, right? Now to come back down to earth and start baby steps. So this here is just an example of a digital transformation framework that we often create with our customers. And it's not only in a banking, right? This is the service, obviously, that we do, but from bank's perspective, as you can see, there are a couple of verticals, and each vertical has many areas where we can start, where you can start. Of course, it's really interesting to do assessments in two parts. First one is to see which use case is going to have the most impact on your business, right? If we speak about the bank of the future. And the second one is obviously how quickly can you start it. Now, obviously, fine-tuning the risk assessment models with some machine learning is going to be much more faster than actually deploying a new ATM network, which is also right offline and hardware project, so to say. However, this is just a glance, just an example, but there are really quite a few use cases where we can easily start and get some easy wins, so to say. Okay, and now starting actually with I like to call it a backbone, right? So modern data platform, speaking about data integration, we really see it as a backbone for everything that we're going to talk about today. So just for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to call AI, I'm going to give the name AI First Bank, right? It doesn't matter if you're going to have a spin-off product or some services, etc. So let's call it, for the purpose of this webinar, AI First Bank. Now, what does the AI First mean? So I really like these three examples. So first one, it's intelligent, and intelligent meaning recommending actions to me, okay, anticipating, etc., but recommending actions to me. Now just think about it. If you open your mobile app, what would mean recommend actions to me? Second one is personalized. So really timely and based on understanding my behavior and context of my behavior, really important. And omni-channel, but not only in terms of having same experience on a website and a mobile app. Omni-channel meaning even beyond banking services, right? Because today's customer actually does not care. So what I described in my first sheet, I as a customer, I'm going to take it whoever first offers it to me. I'm not going to actually care if that mobile application is WhatsApp, if it's coming from my bank or insurance provider, right? And this is taken from one of the McKinsey & Company blogs and analysis from September 2020. And they listed actually two biggest reasons why do companies often fail in becoming AI first. Now this is really important, right? So, and we're going to focus on one today, and that is a weak core technology and a data backbone. So meaning that those systems often lack in capacity and flexibility that you require in order to deploy a real-time analysis, fast data processing, and providing flexible APIs in order to integrate with external companies, right? Now, just a couple of examples. So Dozens, it's a UK-based fintech company, and they decided that their revenue stream is not going to be interest in terms of crediting, lending the money. But what they're doing is comparing me and my financial habits on my credit card, actually on current account, comparing with similar likes to me and trying to boost my saving habits. And in next phase, trying to boost and educate me on investment, right? So there's really lots of personalized and omni-channel in that. Second one is probably familiar to you, but I just took it as a personal example. So Revolut caught for me real-time Amazon-like transaction. It seemed like it was Amazon. It was with the same amount as my Prime subscription that I have on Amazon. And they blocked it in real time, canceled my card, offered me a new card, and actually it caught me on my vacation, but I was up and running with a new card in my Apple Pay under 2 minutes. So these are just two glances on what AI first means. Now, speaking of data backbone and data infrastructure in general, there are three key challenges that we see in the market happen at all of the customers. And this is even not that specific only for banking, right? So first one is, are you cloud ready? So these legacy on-prem systems find it quite hard to scale enough. And being cloud ready is really going to reduce the maintenance and allow you much faster time to market. Now just think about it for a second. Let's say it's a Monday morning meeting and a board member decides that you're going to pilot a new churn detection solution, right? you can be up and running and starting the development in 30 minutes or 15 minutes, right? So just think about it for a minute. It's really important to understand how fast can that be. Then again, data, probably the problem number one out of all of these is data is siloed. Data quality is questionable, and in order to do what we are speaking about today, we really need to change these batch reloads with real-time CDC, so change data capture, right? Non-invasive real-time data extraction. And all of that just to get one version of truth, because when you get out in the application with a huge amount of the information, you mustn't allow yourself to have a wrong version of truth, right? And omni-channel, as we mentioned, I would say start with APIs, right? Because they're going to be a base for external partnership and collaboration with other companies, products and services, etc. And that's the only path in order to give your users really a world-class user experience. Now, these two examples here are from insurance, but I think they're described really well. Zurich is deployed Qlik's data integration solution. And speaking about one project, they say they planned 45 days of ETL coding. And with Qlik Compose, we're going to talk about it a little later on, they completed it actually in 2 days, right? And other example is Generali Insurance, also globally. They mentioned that this is the core of their IT landscape for next 10 to 15 years, right? So just think about it, how this long period of time is, and when someone invests money in it, actually has to be sure that it's doing the right decision. Okay, so this was speaking about a backbone and a data integration platform just shortly. Now we're going to jump into business reporting and analytics, so pure BI, so to call it, and where reactive is just not enough anymore. Now, on the right-hand side, you have tons of areas where you can start with, but more important, I would focus on the left side of the screen, where we'll list a couple of, let's call them low-hanging fruits, right? So areas where you can start and really get some winnings easily. So first of all, how to recognize those low-hanging fruits is definitely if you have slow and manually intensive reporting, right? It's often, not always, but often Excel-based. If you don't have in-depth or trend analysis, if your KPIs are really aggregated or pre-aggregated in some snapshots, if many people are part of reporting preparation, not consumption, but preparation, if sales department is coming last in a row, so after regulatory and risk, it means that just capacity is not enough in order to serve everyone needs. And as I mentioned earlier, if you have multiple versions of truth popping up on internal meetings, so different numbers for the same KPI. No clear KPI comparison between branches, also really often that we bump into, and a lack of detailed analysis of product profitability. This one is complex, but it can also be maybe not that low-hanging fruit, but easily approached, right? A couple of use cases again, as you realize, I'm sharing whenever I can a couple of real life use cases in these pink windows. So one of the EU top 10 banks where we had some activities also, they fully automatized preparation of daily report, and together with a couple of other reports that we managed to automatize, they saved equivalent of 3 FTE on manual repetitive data handling processes, right? So people from analytics department and BI department actually gain some time in order to do the decision making and thinking. Second example is global, and the KPI is a little more complex, but the Citigroup globally said that they improved their decision making agility by 10 to 24% with Qlik. Now, obviously, this is a bit complex KPI to calculate, but just think in your terms, what would 24% faster time to market mean, right? If you manage to get it. This is the point where we're going to jump shortly into one demo case. So just to check if you see my screen, yeah, you do. So what you see here is just one application. It's a Qlik interactive self-service application, and it has a performance dashboard, utilization, credit data, risk assessments in there, etc., by markets, by countries, by credit analysts, by credit managers by customer names, their exposures, credit lines, utilization, and so on. So what I can see here is actually that my utilization of credit lines that are approved is 50%, right? This is my return on assets, return on equity, and my current exposure. And of course, I can easily double check each and every country. When I select it, I can see its utilization. I can also read it by a color coding, but just shortly, I can see that biggest markets are pretty decent utilized. And then as I go on the smaller markets, they're of course less, I mean, not of course, but less utilized. In this case, I'm head of America's market. And basically, wherever you see Americas on the screen, you can click it, you can select it, right? So let it be here. And I'm also analyzing that 56%, so a little above average, is utilized. So now what I want to see is actually by my credit managers, how is the exposure and utilization organized. So what we're going to do here is just resort this pivot table shortly, and then I can see that actually out of total 1.8 million, most of it lies at Linda, Raidun, and they're basically my top person there, where the second one has already high utilization. So Linda is actually going to need a little deeper analysis. So what I can also do is just search. So as you would search on Google, and the whole application below there is indexed, right? So I can find Linda as my credit manager, select her, and look into a little more detail into those data. Now, what I can also see in the left-hand side is number of customers by utilization group, number of customers by return on equity, and also by relationship size, right? So first, what I'm going to do is, first, what I'm going to do is focus on the big ones. So ones above 10 million deal. And what I can see is that her largest markets, retail and services, are standing well. Healthcare is standing well. In total, it's 60% utilization. There's a part of life science, which is overutilized, so we're not compliant there. I have to double check it. But what I want to do next is actually focus on small ones, right? So on small and SMEs. And I can see here that I have 20% only of utilization. Now, obviously, this is 10% of her total value, right? Having 80K in small ones and 900K in big ones. But however, this might be 10%, which is low hanging. And of course, I can easily or reorganize it and see exactly who the customers are and focus on those who are really lowest by utilization, see their names, see who their credit analysts are, talk to them and try to see if we can get some more, a little more of utilization there, right? So now this was just a simple experience on the interactivity approach when you have really, top modern self-service tool. And now you can just think about it, how flexible and how hard, inflexible and hard would it be if this was just a huge pivot table. But this is really just scratching the top of the surface, hopefully in a Q1 next year, we're going to have a webinar with a much more detailed focus on various use cases, but just from pure reporting and business intelligence perspective. Okay, now just to see if you see my screen. You do. Now moving on. Now we're coming to a third pillar, right? So the data integration as a backbone was the first one. Then we jumped on self-service and reporting, and now let's speak shortly about AI and use cases and how can they transform our business. And then again, question that we're going to answer here is how to start, right? So then again, McKinsey's global AI survey report, 60% of people who participated said that they already adopted one of three things. So either robot processing automation, right, for structure and operational tasks, RPA, virtual assistant or conversational interfaces, especially in customer service, because there's a huge money to be saved in these areas, or machine learning techniques to detect fraud and support underwriting and risk management in general, right? And what I did here is I added a fourth component, which is our experience as BE-terna, right? And that is machine learning techniques from smart and adaptive customer segmentation and targeting. Now, just to give you a glance idea, what in the world could that be? So let's say that I get a reminder, and then again, I don't care which application from, and suggestion that my friend has a birthday in a week. And for example, that I get proposals based on his recent searches and his interests, of course, if he gives a consent that someone else analyzes that data. And market and merchants where a buyer present actually gives a commission fee to a bank, and then again, potentially skipping a transaction fee. So we have a win-win here. We have a new revenue stream, so taking fee out of the, let's say, retailer, and we have a possibility also to lower the transaction fee in more maturing no fee or low fee crypto market, right? Which is definitely going to play an important role, but we didn't even speak about it now. Now, then again, to open just a couple of examples. First one, then again, really simple. You're probably using it. Most banks even have it already today, is budget analysis and forecasting, some basic forecasting. So giving me a notification, just a heads up, with this trend, you're going to spend restaurant money by the 20th of this month. Now, maybe a little more interesting example. So Cropin, it's agri-tech company. They're analyzing crops performance, weather, land usage, and all of it in order to predict creditworthiness of potential lender and more accurate, and they're doing it more accurately than traditional risk models, right? So think of it. It's a great example of leveraging AI, because you're much more to a cause why potentially someone is going to default in agriculture business, of course, and not going to be able to repay their loan. So much more closer to a cause, to a reason. And then again, one local example, but this is really just a tiny part of a job they're doing really great. It's Kex is a brand of Erste Bank here in Croatia. So I took out just a tiny example, and that's their integrated parking payment, right? Speaking about omni-channel and APIs, and it's so convenient and simple. So, but you have to understand, I have the possibility to pay a parking in at least 5 mobile apps, right? And I'm using this one. So then again, I don't care where it's coming from, as long as it is convenient and really nice to use. Okay. And now we're going to focus on the next slide a little more about this fourth part that we as a BE-terna added here. So smart segmentation. This is actually area where we have a lot of experience. So this is just an example of, let's say, solution architecture, how smart segmentation in banking should work. So we call it decision support system in general, but one of 2 important parts is analyzing customer behavior. Now, please note, not demographic data, that's just tiny part, this, let's say, customer profile could be a demographic data, but really providing intelligent segments. So analyzing behavior, right? Repetitive transactions, location of the transactions, payment habits, account status habits, channels and the amounts we spend money with, most often contacts, telemonitoring, let's say in phase 2 activities on my smartwatch, etc. And then again, family and friends monitoring if everyone gives the consent to it. And this is really analyzing a customer behavior. Now jumping on a second segment, which is maybe a little more important, and that is comparing me with lookalike groups, right? And developing a recommender system on top of it, and providing me maybe with some services that your bank doesn't even know I have interest in, like analyzing my peer group's saving habits or their investment habits, or products they have interest in, right? Type of accounts or price they agree on. Application improvements, so learning from someone else's movement in order to boost my application adoption. And then again, third-party offering that we mentioned a couple of times, just an example of an insurance. And then obviously it's going to have to end in a couple of touch points. Mobile app definitely being a central point of communication for probably a long time. Any third-party companies, then again, who I give consent to use my data, right? So monetizing data that we gather and provide. Non-invasive personal communication, let's say on a smartwatch, maybe not a new product or something really non-invasive, and definitely part of the communication is still going to be offline, or part of the customers won't change, or something like that, right? So this is just one of the examples where we see a really huge potential in banking industry in general, and insurance also, and where we as a BE-terna have an experience. Now to slowly start wrapping it up from a perspective of technology support, right? So how to tackle all of these data challenges. This slide here is going to show Qlik's approach to modern data architecture, right? On the left-hand side, we obviously have tons of data sources. And what we are first going to talk about here is actually ability to stream data pipeline and do it automatically. So do it non-invasively. So what we're talking about here is actually changing the batch reloads with continuous real-time uploads and doing it with change data capture. So meaning learning and replicating applications logs, so doing it non-invasively. And obviously, we can work with whatever Amazon, Google Cloud, SQL, Kafka, Azure, Synapse, so as a source or as a target. Second step, if you already have, and you probably do, a data warehouse built, right? Automation of that data warehouse is the next thing, which is going to lower the pressure on, let's say, BI or IT departments and allow you to take care of the other departments in a bank also, right? And the last part, maybe you're not still here, maybe you are here, but actually, in order to really boost this repetitiveness of using the data, we're going to end up in a data lake management and creation, right? Azure, Databricks, Cloudera, Google, so wherever, right? But actually, building that reusable data layer is a prerequisite number one. Either if we speak about integration with other companies or just boosting internal development of our data science team, or just purely analytics. And to wrap up this slide, probably most important, at least from my perspective, component here, I mean, not most important, but really critical, is a data catalog, right? So imagine bringing Amazon shopping experience into a point between your BI team and your business teams, right? So what you're going to see here in 10 seconds is actually shopping for a data, right? Sales data from last 2 years and some dimensional data, and actually with one click, publishing it directly, either to Qlik, either to Tableau, either to Power BI, either to CSV to be reused by a data science team, right? So this here is incredibly fastening and ease of use and the approach that key users can have when attacking the data. So now just compare these 10 seconds with how that currently looks like in your organization, and you'll be able to realize, right, if there's a gap, or better to say, if there is a potential. Now to slowly wrap it up, because we're nearing 30 minutes, and I want to wrap it up in 30 and to see if we have any questions or comments, right? So what I skipped in the beginning, but I want to keep your focus on the topic, is just shortly about BE-terna. So we're present in Adriatic region and Central Europe, even recently touching base into Scandinavia. So these are headquarters and subsidiaries. Next year, we're probably going to touch 900 employees. This year, we're doing over 100 million in turnover. And this 1,500 turns into, I think, 2,500 projects, right? So we are a solution provider, building our offering on top of Qlik, Microsoft, Infor, and Cornerstone as key technology pillars. And obviously, we offer end-to-end solution development, right? From strategy, so assessment, planning, or preparing you and as organization for digital transformation, and of course, execution, right? So piloting, transforming with specific industry know-how, and actually helping you with the operation. So then day-to-day work with the new technologies that come up in there, because there's really, really much more besides just technology when we speak about successful digital transformation, right? And to conclude, I would just say, start small, but just start, right? And I'm going to back it up with this slide here. So this, what you can see here, is actually an investment landscape of each and every IT manager or a board member, whoever is holding the money, right? So we have four components: projects that could go into strategic, so investments that are critical to sustain our future business strategy. I think you already now have lots of information what out of today's webinar could go in there. High potentials, we're still not sure. Those are the investments and projects which may be important in achieving future success, so something to play around with. Key operational, right? So investments in which our organization currently is depending on for success, so core systems definitely. And support systems, so investment in systems which allow us to be more flexible on operational level, but are not that critical to our success. Now, the tricky part is here. Lower two segments are here more or less only to avoid disadvantages in a market, right? So for example, a plane ticket company who doesn't have a web shop more or less doesn't exist in 2020, right? And similar thing you can find in your organizations also. But then again, you have to invest there. And pure BI, so self-service, business intelligence, right, reporting, it's somewhere in between. It's somewhere in between. It's not going to create a market advantage probably, but if you don't have it, you'll keep struggling internally. But most of the presentation that we touch base today and examples actually goes up in there, right, into potentially into high potential projects, which may become strategic in the end, right? So everything that we talked about today, from smart intelligence segmentation, churn, offline optimizations, etc. And what's important to note is that those projects are there to create advantages on the market, right? So there's a huge difference. And then again, good thing for you is, as I mentioned earlier, start small if needed, but just start, because all of these projects, firstly, thanks to cloud and thanks to our experience and expertise, can be started quickly. Maybe not deployed fully, but started and tested quickly. And that's maybe something that you cannot do with your core solution, but you can definitely do with a couple of AI projects. Now, as mentioned earlier, Backbone is something that you're definitely going to need in the future, but to start testing and potentially checking what would be your strategic projects in the end, you can start it really, really easily. So thank you for this. I would wrap up my presentation here.